Hey everybody, today what we're doing, we're going to be changing out the wheel cylinders on the rear brakes of a 1981 C10. This is a two-wheel drive model, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the video, and hopefully it'll help y'all out if you have a bad one in your truck. Here we go. Okay, first thing you want to do is go ahead and get your truck jacked up in the back. Put a couple jack stands under your axles, which I've already done, and there they are. You can see those right underneath the axle, I like to put it. After that, we got to go ahead and get this rear tire off, and what you're going to do there after you get it jacked up, you take all 5 lug nuts off, which I've already done on mine. They were a 13/16, yours maybe a 3/4. Those are pretty common sizes on these old trucks. Get those lug nuts off. We're going to go ahead and get the wheel off. Just kind of pull it out of the way, roll it out of your way, your workspace. Right after it's out of your workspace, you can come back, get this drum off. My drum is really easy to come off. Just grab it, pull it right off, no problem. A lot of these get stuck on here, and you got to really work at them. I usually take a hammer and kind of hit around on it on the sides. You can use your hands to knock it loose like that. Usually it'll break them loose. You just got to work at it. Some of them will have holes right here. This C10 doesn't. I don't know if any of the others do, but a lot of drums will have holes where you can thread bolts into it, and when you do, it'll push on the backing plate and pull the drum off for you. This one doesn't. Mine, I got lucky. Mine came off real easy. So anyway, you just grab that and just pull it off out of the way. Use a hammer if you have to. I usually use a rubber mallet, and this will give you access to all your brakes right here. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next step after that. So the next thing we're going to do, now that the drum's off and out of the way, we can go ahead and get a good look at our brakes. We'll go ahead and inspect these pads here. Just get a look at them, check it for wear and thickness levels. Then this, in case you're unfamiliar, is your wheel cylinder. These pistons, you'll see them a little better, of course, whenever you get in there yourself. It's kind of hard to see on video. I'll show you when I get it out. There are pistons on each side of this wheel cylinder, and those are what push out on the brake pads, pressing these pads against the drums, having your brakes stop the vehicle. These springs help return all the pads to where they need to be to release the brakes once you release the pedal. So what we're going to be doing to get this wheel cylinder out of here, on this side, we're going to be removing this spring here. We're going to be removing this spring here. Okay, and then there is a bar right there. If you can see it, I'm touching it. And it goes between this pad and this pad. It goes all the way across. It just has a fork on it. And it just slides right in there around those pads. It kind of spaces the pads out a little bit there and keeps them lined up. So we'll be removing that, this spring, and this spring on this side of things. Now that we know we're going to remove on this side of the brakes, we're going to go ahead and flip to the other side and just get an overview of what we're going to be doing back there. See if we can get our light in here just right. Alright, that looks pretty good. What we're going to be doing is, here's the back side of your wheel cylinder, just on the opposite side of the drum here on the backing plate. You have a bolt right here and a bolt right there. Those are the 2 bolts that are going to hold the wheel cylinder in place. They are the mounting bolts for it. Here's your bleeder for bleeding the brakes. Right here is your brake line, obviously. And what I like to do, you can see mine's all wet there. I like to go ahead and pre-treat it and just spray it with, I use PB Blaster normally, but you could probably use WD-40 or whatever you may have. Just soak that down, let it sit for a little bit, because a lot of times these brake lines, you got to be real careful. They'll get rusted on there. You'll try to get that thing off. It'll strip it, it'll break the line. Then you kind of get into some more issues. Hopefully we don't have that problem, and hopefully you don't have that problem when you're doing yours at home. So that's kind of an overview of where we're going to be going with this and how to get it out, and let's get on to the next step. And now we're just going to go over real quick the tools. Now that we have everything off, that's kind of basic. The tools to go ahead and proceed with removing this and replacing it. This is what I use. You may not need all this stuff, but I'll just show it to you just so you have an idea. Okay, so I have my PB Blaster to spray everything and pre-treat it to loosen it up. I have my headlamp. It works really well. It's nice getting in tight spots. You don't have to hold a flashlight if you're by yourself. I have 3/8 wrench, regular Craftsman box and open. I have a line wrench. These are really nice if you don't have one. Really nice, gets a lot of grip on the brake line. It's a 6-point, it just has a little opening. You can slide that right over the line and it gets maximum grip so that you can hopefully not strip out that nut when those get really tight. I have just a wire brush to clean in there, and I'll show you that when we get to it. A ratchet with a 3/8 inch socket. That's what size those mounting bolts are for the wheel cylinder. This is a 10mm wrench, which on my new wheel cylinder, which I got in advance, the bleeder on this one is actually metric, and it's a 10mm. So that's what the 10mm is for. The one that's on there, the factory, was a 3/8, but you know, everything's made in wherever now, China, I don't know. Anyways, just a rubber mallet. I kind of use that to move the brake pads around, you know, to get them into place. Also, you can use this to beat the drum off if you have to. And a pair of vice grips. Nice to remove the springs, and I'll show you how I remove those in a second. And let's get on to the next step. The next step is going to be removing these springs. I like to get these springs off and out of the way. Get this side here all loosened up. Get this bar out. Get this loosened up to get ready to start go ahead and start removing the wheel cylinder from the back side. I'm gonna go ahead and use my vice grips for this, and we're gonna stick it right on this spring right here. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this with one hand. I'll try to set the camera up real quick so you can kind of have a visual on how I remove it. Okay, so I know I'm a little bit far away here, but I'm still gripped on there with the same bite that you saw me in the last part of the video. I'll turn my headlamp on here. I'm not sure if that's going to help you or hurt you, but basically you just want to grab this thing, and it is a pain. Kind of get in the wheel well, and you're just going to want to pull that until you can get it loose. You might have to take a closer bite sometimes, just how long it works for you, and that tends to happen. It'll slip off there. You gotta be careful, it'll bang your knuckles or your elbow or whatever. Just pull it off just like that. This will rotate down just like this. Slide right out of there. There's your spring. I go ahead and set that over there so I know that one goes to that side. You're going to come back and do the same thing on this spring. Just grab a hold of it right there on the end. Clamp it down about as tight as you can get it, really. Pull up, and this one just kind of hooks on there. Unhook it. Rotate it down. It pulls right out just like the other, and there it is. Set that right here. Okay, now we'll come down here, and you can see this bar here that I was telling you about. Sorry. And to get that out, you kind of slide the brake out of the way. Now that the brake's out of the way, this is loose. You just grab it, slide it right out, just like that. And then I set everything down in order. However you want to do it, you can, but I set my spring that goes there, and sorry, I'm just trying to see if you can see that, which you can't, obviously. And I set my spring here that goes on this side, my spring here goes on this side, and I slide that bar right in there like that, so I know which end goes to what side. And now that we've gotten it all loosened up in here, as you can see, that the wheel cylinder, you know, here's those pistons I was telling you about. You can remove those now if you just want to. It just pulls right out just like that. Just pull it right out of there. Boop. And I'll go ahead and set that down with the rest of my stuff. And you can go ahead, if you want, you can pull this one out of the way. Kind of push that one back in. Pull this one out, and you can pull that piston out if you want. I'm not going to do that. I'm just, sorry. Again, I keep blinding y'all. I'm just going to leave that one in for now. We're going to go ahead and move to the back to the next step and try and get this thing removed. You can leave that in and pull them out with them. It's just preference. Okay, so here we are on the back side of things. What I like to do is go ahead and get this bleeder, stick my 3/8 socket on there, That loosened up pretty easy. That PB blaster really does wonders. Just go ahead and wind that out, get it out of the way. You could leave it in there, but it just makes it easier to get the wheel cylinder out of the drum, in my opinion, between the axle and the backing plate. Next thing you want to do, I have a line wrench and I'm going to use it. You can use a regular open-end wrench on this line. You don't have to. Stick that on there. I mean, you don't have to use a line wrench, but I prefer it so the line don't strip off if it's really stuck. So then you just get in here and you just go slow. There you go. It's cracked loose. Sometimes once I get them cracked loose, even if you do have a line wrench, I'll go ahead and switch over to the regular opened end. Makes it a lot easier to just unwind that. One other thing I've done, I don't know if I've shown you, I put a bucket underneath just to catch any kind of fluid that may dribble down here and go down the backing plate. And I'll go ahead and get this off and we'll move on to the next step, which will be removing these mounting bolts. Okay, our brake line is loose. The nut is off. I slid it back on the line. You're just gonna take your 3/8 socket again, stick it right on those bolts, which are also sprayed with PB in my case. Just crack them loose. I crack them both at the same time. I don't take one all the way out just yet. Just get it on there, crack that thing loose. Sorry, hard to hold the camera here and stay on it at the same time. Alright. Now that they're both cracked loose, I'm going to go ahead and get those removed and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, just getting this last bolt out here. Okay, so now our bleeder's out, our brake line is loose, and both mount bolts are disconnected. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come around on this side. Light set up again. Sorry about that. And then you're going to grab this wheel cylinder here and we're going to attempt to move it and just get it out of there. It should be nice and loose for us. And just kind of get in there. Sorry again, I'm doing this one-handed, so it makes it a little harder. Just one-handed. Pull it out. I kind of rotate it so those basically the back part of it, where your brake line and bleeder and all that was, I rotate it so they're facing up. I usually find that an easier way to remove this out of here because it is a little bit of a tight fit. Again, I'm sorry if you can't see as well or whatever. I'm trying to do this one hand. It's a little slippery because of the brake fluid on it. But pull this one out. That's the other piston there. So I can get a better hold on it. And there you go. Just slide it out just like that. Sorry about that. I kind of had to fumble with it. It's really not as hard as it looks. It just, with one hand and videoing it, makes it a little more difficult. And there it is. We'll go ahead and get the new one and get it installed. Get on with the next step. Okay, now we have the little pistons here that push the brake pads out. See how they're all nasty and dirty? That's where I bring the wire brush in. Just go ahead. I prefer it. I just go ahead and clean all this gook and as much rust or anything that's on there that I can off, and hopefully it'll help slide in there a little bit better. I mean, you're in there anyway, you might as well get them cleaned up real good. So just go ahead and get those brushed off real good, and I'll do mine and we'll move on with the next step. Okay, so I got my new wheel cylinder. I just wanted to go ahead and give you a note here. It's going to look a little different on mine when I go back together. I am putting different bolts in mine with lock washers. The reason for that is the one bolt that I removed, the head is pretty stripped and I had a hard time kind of getting it out. It cracked loose, it started to crack loose and it started to spin, and it was kind of hard to get out of there. The other one's in good shape. This one, I could probably use it and get it in there, but I'd rather not. I had these bolts laying around in the garage here. They're like brand new. and this is a 5/16 by 18 pitch thread. If you do need to change yours, a 5/16 by 18 pitch. And you're going to put a lock washer. These did have lock washers. They were star washers. A little bit different, but same deal. The big thing is make sure they're the same length and you have the right size and right pitch. Shouldn't be a problem. Just want to let you know. And the reason I'm changing both, because the other one is good, is these are two different size bolts, the heads on them. The ones we took out were 3/8. These are 1/2 inch. I just don't want to have to switch sockets each time. If I ever have to do this again or whatever for the next guy, he can just get a 1/2 inch socket and just pull them right out of there. It just makes it a little easier, makes it look a little nicer. But that's all at your discretion, so we'll go ahead and get this thing put in. Okay, next step is installing the wheel cylinder. You take your new wheel cylinder, there is a plug in the line there that just pulls right out. You just grab a hold of it, pull it out, no big deal. Just keeps dust and dirt out of there. The brake bleeder on this, you can go ahead and just leave it on there. Should be able to slide it in there, no problems, just like that. Now when we remove this, on this side here, my plunger was still in. So since I removed it that way, I'm going to put it in that way. You don't have to do that, but that way I can slide it in. Hopefully that plunger will slide into place and we can get it in. And then I know since we took this one out over here, when it was installed, that we should be able to get that one back in. It shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, it's going to vary a little bit how you do it. You don't have to do exactly how I do it, but this gives you hopefully a good idea. So I'm going to go ahead and put that piston in and take your piston that we had cleaned up. And you remember this went in with the brake bleeder facing up like that. Okay? And the line on the bottom. So mine was over here on this side was the one that was in. So it's going to sit in there just like this. So I'm going to stick a plunger on this side right here. And I'll get that in and we'll move on to the next step. So I should show you this real quick. This plunger, it just, let me get my wheel cylinder just right. But it just sticks right in there. It's no big deal. It just slides in the end. Sorry, again, I'm trying to do it one-handed. But you just stick it in the rubber there. And, hang on, let me turn this light on. Maybe that'll help you. You just slide it in there. It's no big deal. Just pushes right in, just like that. That's it. You can kind of work that into the rubber a little bit better if you want. You can twist it. I only have one hand, I can't do it, but basically just sits there. This is like a dust cap, keep everything out. And let's move on to the next step. Okay, here we are, next step. Slide this down in just like we removed it. Get it into place. Slide it in there. Okay, sorry, it's very hard with one hand here. And what I'm going to do is get this plunger lined up. And on this side, if you can see it, I'm going to get that plunger slid in there. We're going to slide this back. And then we're going to go around the other side before we bolt anything in and just kind of get it into place, temporary, I guess you'd say. And we're going to get that brake line started. You want to get the brake line started first because you don't want to cross thread it. The brake line is a rigid line, so it's hard to move around. Once you bolt all this into place and then you try to put it on, it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt. So what you want to do, a little trick, is kind of get it in place and get that brake line started on there real nice. And that way you're not cross threading it. Once that's in place, then we can go ahead and start finishing up the rest of the stuff. And so we'll move on to that step next. So see you in a minute. Okay, again on this side, you can see this is all loose. We just came around the other side. You just take that line, get it in there, get it lined up real nice, and just start twisting it in there. And you can tell that it's not cross-threaded because it's screwing in really nice. I screw that in there pretty good. I don't tighten it. I just get it in there, you know, quite a few threads. And then the next step you're going to want to do is once you get that in, the bleeder's already in, we can go and get these mounting bolts started in here and get her tightened up. So we'll see at that step. Okay, now I got my bolts started in there. You're just going to come in, just like we removed them, just go ahead and snug them up. I don't crank these down real hard. I think it's around, I'm not 100% sure, I think it's around 20 foot-pounds is the actual, what they're supposed to be. But I just come in, I snug them up. You know, you don't want to crush them because you don't want to break the wheel cylinder. But you want them snug enough to where they're not going to come loose, and it's going to hold that thing in place. So just come in there and just kind of give them a good little snug. Those lock washers will hold that thing and ain't going to come loose on you. But just snug them. Don't crush them. You don't want to put all your weight on it because you could break that wheel cylinder. Okay, so now that those bolts are tight, I'm going to come back and I'm going to tighten this brake line because you do not want to forget that. So again, you come in with your 3/8. I use the open end wrench. Makes it a little easier. Just tighten that thing up. Now with these, the same thing. Just snug it. You don't have to crush it. You don't have to He-Man it. You just snug it up. And you'll know if you don't have it tight enough because it'll leak and it'll let you know. Alright. Now, another thing I like to do while I'm back here is just put a wrench on that new bleeder. Like I said, this new one's a 10mm. Snug it. Mine's snug. Just to double check it. Sometimes they might be loose or whatever from the factory. You know. You just never know. Alright, we're going to go back to the other side and I'll see you over there on the next step. Okay, so now you can see my piston is lined up in there. On these, which I don't know if I've showed you yet, but you can kind of see they're shaped a little goofy. And that's because these sit right in there like that. They slide in those, basically like a groove where those pads sit. So on this one, you're going to come in, same thing, just kind of you slide it in that boot, and you get her slid in that boot there. That's in all the way. Kind of line it up with the pad, and then you get that pad, and you want to just get it started in there. So there you go. Oops, sorry, you missed it kind of. But basically, just slide it right in there, just like that, and there you go. It's in. Now you can see we're starting to get somewhere here. So now what we need to do is go ahead and get the springs and that bar down here put back on. And basically you want to put the bar in first, just like when we removed it last, so you want to put it in first. And then we'll get the springs put on and we'll go from there. So let's get this bar put in. Okay, so on this bar, it is shaped differently. This goes towards the pumpkin ball of the rear end. It'll go in just like that. Okay, so this will be the outside, this will be the inside, just like that. Got that spring on there. What you do is come in, slide it in, and you'll see it come around this side here. Let's see if you can see it. Sorry, just trying to get the camera just right. There it is. And you just slide it in right on that pad, just like that, right on that drum. Give you a little more light here. There it is. And then you come around this side, and you want to make sure you can see this side real good. Okay, and same thing, just stick it up there, right in place, line it up. I kind of had to pull that pad back out a little bit to get this on, just so you know. I'm not trying to trick you or anything. It just how it goes. I want to show you that piston, and then you just slide that back up in there. And again, I'm doing it one hand. With two hands, you do this in half a second. So you just slide it in there. Get her in place. Pull that up. And there you go. See how it slid right in? Make sure your piston is still going to be lined up. It will be. Once I get two hands, I'll be able to straighten this up a little better. But you get it in there just like that, and we'll go ahead and get the springs on. See you at the next step. Here we go. We're going to get the springs put back on. And this end here hooks right into your brake pad. Just goes in, it kind of hooks in, locks in there. This hook, you'll pull it up and it'll hook right onto that center pin. You're going to want to hook it in the brake drum first. There you go. It's locked in. Take your vice grips here. Get them hooked on good and tight. Hopefully it don't slip off and hit you in the face. which for you, it'd be kind of funny. For me, hopefully I don't cry. Alright, so get you a little pry bar or a screwdriver. You may or may not need it. Hopefully you can just pull it up and hook it on there. If not, you can, when you get it close, you can kind of use this to pry it in. And basically just pull with everything you got. Try to get her lined up. Readjust these a little bit. There you go. And that is on there. So this is what it looks like. Just kind of hook that in right there into your drum. Spring comes up and it hooks right onto this pin here. No big deal. Now we're gonna go ahead and take the other spring, very similar. It has the same style hook, and it'll hook right into that drum again, same way. And then this one is actually gonna hook on this hook right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and get that one put on. Let me see if I can get you set up here again. I know it's a little bit of a far shot. It's kind of the best I can do. Sorry about that. Now, same thing. You want to hook this on there good and tight. This one you should not, probably shouldn't need a screwdriver. Just pull that up, hook it on just like that. Done. Now, I take my rubber mallet. I just kind of make sure these pads, everything kind of moves. See? And everything's in the position it needs to be in. It's where it wants to be. Okay, so that is it. We have that all in, installed. Take your brake drum, slide it back on. Now your wheel cylinder has been changed. We have both of these bolts back here. They're both tightened up. Our brake bleeder, our brake line, just like we went over earlier. So now, basically, if you want to go ahead and adjust your adjuster to get that right where you want it, you can do that now. I'm not going to go over all that. We're just going to do the wheel cylinder. But at this point, this is on. You just leave your wheel off or put it on, however, but you got to bleed the brakes. Normally, I will go ahead and bolt that wheel on because see, this drum moves. You could run lug nuts on here to hold it in place. But I would put the wheel back on, bolt it up tight, leave it on jack stands, make it easier. And you're going to want to bleed the brakes. Like I said, I'm not going to go over the whole bleeding process because this video will be 3 hours long, you know, with everything I'm doing and that. But basically, once your wheel's on all that, you come back to your bleeder, okay? You want to start at the farthest from the master cylinder, which would be the right rear, which is this one here, right rear. So you start here. You have somebody pump the brakes, pump the brakes, pump the brakes, get your pressure built up, come back. As they're holding them down, crack that bleeder loose. You'll see air and fluid and stuff come out. Have them hold the pedal all the way to the floor. Once it stops, you tighten that bleeder back up. Okay? Have them pump it again. Pump it up till they get pressure. Hold it. Crack that loose again. You want to do that until the air doesn't come out. Okay? Maybe do it 2, maybe 3 times, okay? And then check your fluid. Make sure your fluid's not low. If your fluid in your master cylinder goes low, too low, it'll start sucking air and then you'll get air all over again. So keep it topped off, pop the lid, check it, top it off with fluid, put your cap back on, come back, pump it again. Same thing, hold it, crack it till you get fluid only. Once you get fluid only, you just tighten that thing back up. They let off, you go to the next brake. Do the exact same thing. Make sure your fluid stays nice and full. And you should have really good working brakes after that. Wheel cylinders are changed, and you're good to go. So I hope this helped y'all out. And if you had an issue with your wheel cylinder, and hopefully now you're back on the road and ready to go and go to work or run around or whatever you got to do. So next time something breaks on my truck or one of my vehicles again, I'll make another video and hopefully be able to help some of y'all out again. So until next time, appreciate it, and thank you for watching.